What's going on, folks? It's Tuesday night. Time for some Texans to talk some football. I am SAJ coming to you live from the Jungle Gyms Playland Studios. And this is...
What's up, everybody? I'm BD coming at you from the Discovery Zone Playland Studios.
Nice.
Hope you all had a good weekend, good Father's Day. You know, all you fathers, hope you had a great time with your kids. And I know I did. Jay, how about you?
I had a great time hanging out with the family. We did a little bit of family time stuff. We did some soccer stuff. Of course, you know, most of you, well, some of you know, maybe most of you know, kids are real super involved in soccer. So that kind of becomes our life, right? Right here, this comment, 100%, 100%. It is like Texas absolutely hates us right now.
So I actually just like 10 minutes ago, I saw something, highest heat index on record for San Antonio was hit today at 117.
Yep.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Dude, again, that's proof that God hates Texas and he's trying to burn it to the ground. That's not actually true at all. We're just experiencing unseasonably hot weather right now. I'm not going to get into the politics of it or anything like that, but this does tend to happen, you know, every couple of years.
It's June, so, you know.
Right. And we're lucky we made it this long without it being this hot. I remember several years ago when we hit that, 100 and...
Oh, it was
day.
Like 2-3 years ago in early mid-May, it started hitting 100, and it was 100 every day for near the whole summer.
Yeah, it was absolutely miserable. So, folks, I get it. This is, you know, not a fun time to be in Texas, but
Stay inside, make sure your AC works.
Yes, this is exactly what we experience every year. So some years are hotter than others. This is just one of those exceptionally hot ones. And you know what? They make a lot of beer. We got plenty of rivers to tube, and there's air conditioning.
Exactly.
So we're good. We're good. So Marcos, stay safe out there. I know you're in some pretty hot areas yourself. Make sure you stay hydrated. Lots of beer on the weekends when you're at home safe. And, you know, definitely looking forward to a Brahmas event that's going to be coming up. But we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Let's start the show with the USFL.
Yep.
Okay. I only got to catch glimpses of the games because, you know, again, this weekend was really, really crazy with Father's Day and soccer and everything like that. Brian, did you get to catch any of these games? Because apparently there were some incredible games this weekend.
You know, I was checking in on some of them. You know, I was doing, Saturday we were doing our Gunslingers game, and then Sunday was doing, you know, family stuff. But I was definitely kind of plugged in, keeping an eye on them, checking updates, checking scores, checking highlights and stuff. And I mean, for the most part, most of them were good games.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would have to say arguably that this is probably one of the best weekends that the USFL has had, minus you know, that Mahler's Generals game.
Yeah, minus the first game. All the rest of them were close.
Yeah. But even then, like that Mahler's Generals game started out, it was not that bad, right? It looked that it was like it was going to be competitive. Yeah. And then Pittsburgh just, you know, decided to actually take it out of first gear and put it in second gear and really put their foot on it. And New Jersey just kind of stayed in neutral. So it was not a great game. But let's go ahead and break down that game. Of course, you know, we're talking about it. The final score wound up being 26-6. And T. Williams, the quarterback for the Maulers, he had a pretty decent day, 17-25, 154 yards, 1 touchdown. But then they threw in their second stringer, probably for like a trick play, something like that. He went 0-1, no yardage, but he didn't throw a pick, so at least that's good. And then on the ground, they had 114 yards, the bulk of which was carried by the running back Groshek. Pretty decent running back. He's averaging about 4.4 yards per carry in this game. So, you know, he definitely put in some work. However, the quarterback, right, 6 rushes, 40 yards, averaged 6.7. You know, again, you know, we talked about that. And I'm sure some of it was scrambling, because pockets collapsing or whatever, but your quarterback shouldn't be putting up that. I mean, maybe 20, 30 yards, maybe 40 if you've got 200 plus on yards in the air, but on the ground, 40, that concerns me a little bit. That to me seems like you're putting your quarterback in unnecessary risky situations. But I mean, what do we know, right? We're not NFL stars. Anyways, that being the case, again, Pittsburgh put up a lot of numbers. I wish I could say, that Generals put up decent numbers. Their quarterback Johnson went 12 for 27, 137 yards, threw 2 picks though. And that's never good, right? On the ground, 123 yards. Problem is, back to the quarterback
68
situation.
of them came from Johnson.
Yep. So, and that I think was, again, a credit to the Maulers defense, man. They were plastered on the Generals players, forcing the quarterback to have to run. Probably some O-line issues, pockets collapsing, stuff like that, no receivers open. As a quarterback, what are you going to do? You're going to scramble, right? Because you got to focus on getting that positive yardage. Yep. I do remember seeing, I believe it was the end of this game, and the Generals were just, at this point, they were already, smoldering dumpster fire. It was just a train wreck. And so everything that they did just kind of went south on them. Like every play they tried to call, it just did not look good. So that being the case, we're looking at the hang on, I'm trying to get to the standings. The Maulers wound up getting in, right? And not that there was a whole bunch of competition from the Generals, right? But we had talked about this last week. The NFC North was pretty much up for grabs. And we'll see that in a little bit when we talk about the Panthers and the Stars and their games. But going to the second game, now this one we did catch a little bit of. I know you and I saw a little bit of it. And we also watched some IFL while we were at the Gunslingers game. This game was a game.
It was, I mean, Memphis took the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and they were holding a lead for a little while. And then, Birmingham just kind of decided, we're going to stop playing around and took the lead and held on to it. But, I mean, it was pretty tight, most of the way through.
Yeah, going into the half, it was 17-13.
Yeah.
And Birmingham looked like they had their hands full, and it almost did not look like they were going to come back, right? But that third quarter, Birmingham took the lead, and Memphis didn't score anything that quarter. And then it wasn't until the fourth quarter when, Birmingham scored that last touchdown, and Memphis just could not get it into the end zone, right? The best they could settle for was 3 points. That's when you knew that Birmingham had finally put away this game. However, it almost didn't really matter, because if you look back at the standings, the Showboats were pretty much out of the playoff picture, if you will, because I think they went into that game 5-4. And the only team that they were kind of competing against would have been the Gamblers, right? And I know we had talked about that also, but the South was pretty much clinched up by the Stallions and the Breakers going into this last weekend. So
I think the Gamblers had an outside chance to make it. It was based on point differential and stuff, and they had to beat the Breakers one, and then it was kind of a same scenario with Seattle and St. Louis in the XFL. It came down to point differential, and Houston didn't win, but even if they squeaked one out, they weren't going to get the point differential to make it up. So,
yep. So we're looking at the stats. Magoo had a pretty decent game. He went 22 of 33, 282 yards, which is incredible. 2 touchdowns, but he did throw a pick. So, and I think we saw that one.
We did. And it looked like, I know the announcers were they were kind of blaming Magoo on the throw, but it went right through the receiver's hands. So
Yeah, it was bad. What's up, Jackie? Horns forward.
Hey, Jackie, how's it going?
So, kicking back over to the rushing yardage, 122 on the ground. Marable carried the bulk, 56 yards, 10 attempts. Magoo had 7 attempts, 32 yards. That's a little bit more reasonable. That's a little bit more manageable, right? That's kind of what you expect to see from a quarterback.
Yeah, especially with a long of 19. He had one, really good run, and the rest of them is probably, just trying to scramble for a few yards here and there, which is fine.
Exactly. So then kicking over to Memphis's stats here. Memphis's quarterback Kelly went 20 of 30, 154 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So not the greatest, but he was backed up by 109 yards rushing. So their rushing back, Gray, 16 attempts, 82 yards, right? So they did have some offensive production. They had their offensive production early.
Yep.
Birmingham's defense kicked in and really kind of held them down, especially that
Memphis just couldn't get it done in the second half.
Yeah. So
we're talking about the announcers during that game. That's why we're watching it together. The announcers actually said one of the funniest lines I've ever heard, and it was on that fumble, and you could hear on the broadcast someone yelling, "He was down, he was down, he was down," and the announcer goes, "Well, if that's a ref, I suggest he uses a whistle."
Yes. So, full disclosure, folks, we're going to be talking about a lot of funny things that happened in football this weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that was just kind of one of them that really started it. But yeah, that was one of those situations where it was like, man, I wish John Madden would have started a school of football announcing so that way we could still continue that tradition, right? The team that goes into the end of the game with the most points wins, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's the stuff.
Yeah, we were hearing that all day long. It was funny.
Yeah.
But
kicking over to
laugh.
Yeah. Kicking over to Sunday, you had the Breakers and the Gamblers. I did watch a little bit of this game, but not a whole lot. It started out really, really slow, right? Nobody scored the first quarter, scored in the third quarter, and then they both kicked extra points in the fourth quarter, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, field goals in the fourth quarter. Looking at their offensive stats, I mean, it wasn't horrible, right? But Bethel Thompson, 23-31, 227 yards, 2 touchdowns. A pretty decent day, right? But their rushing was absolutely
those rushing
horrendous.
yards. Oh God.
Absolutely horrendous. 23 yards total, right? So that's 240, 250 yards total offense by the Breakers. And they're going into the playoffs with that.
It didn't look like either one of those teams wanted to make the playoffs.
No. So on the Gamblers side, Behar, and we had talked about this before, and I guess we got our answer last week that, when Houston was on that surge, whether they were going to peak or not, apparently they did, and they fell off the cliff. So
they did what Houston teams do.
Yes. Well, potentially.
Other than baseball. Houston teams other than baseball.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. Well, that certainly relates to the XFL too, right?
Yep.
The Roughnecks had a chance to completely shut that down and instead gave Arlington a free pass to go to the championship, which should never have happened, right?
Nope.
Shout out to Jorge and his absolute love for the Arlington Renegades. That's a whole different. We can do a whole show.
His love for hating Arlington.
Yes, that's a better way to put it. So, and real quick, shout out to our buddy, the original Flexin Texan, Luke Swain. If you're watching, what's up, buddy? Yep.
What's up, Luke?
So, going back to the Gamblers, you've got Behar that went 21 for 30, 231, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Cozart went 0-2 and threw an interception. That's not good. And then Nizwander, I guess that's their third stringer. He went 0-1. So
Niswander, he's their punter, so they must have had a fake punt.
Must have. But apparently he's not good at throwing the ball because that didn't get anything for him. Here's what's surprising, though. 126 yards on the ground. So Thompson did 84 by himself. So, it definitely shows that Houston had a running game, right? And they pretty much had a running game throughout the whole season. It's just, was it ever going to be combined with serious offense in the air or not?
Yeah.
And that's kind of been one of their biggest struggles, is getting that air attack to actually happen when they needed it. And obviously they did not make it happen in this game. So Houston, like every other Houston team, is riding off into the sunset, and we'll go and lick their wounds. And then we're going to see what happens, right? Because we are going in the playoffs. So are those USFL players that are no longer going to be playing, are they going to be eligible for any of these mini camps? And how much is this going to affect their chances, right? Because how much of an offseason are they really going to get? They're literally going to be going from the USFL, if they are picked up by, NFL teams for NFL, squad, or mini camps. I almost said practice squads. We don't know if that's going to happen or not yet. But what are their chances for success if they're literally finishing up a season, taking a week to lick their wounds, try and heal up, and then go join a mini camp? Because we've already had one mini camp,
So that's going to be a struggle for them.
Mm-hmm.
Even the guys that are not in the playoffs now that are eligible, they'll get a couple extra weeks for the guys who are going to win the championship in the playoffs. But it's not a lot of time. As brutal as this game is, it's not a whole lot of time for their bodies to heal. So they're definitely going to be at a disadvantage.
Yeah. At least looking at it, XFL compared to USFL, the XFL guys had, a couple of weeks off to try and heal and recover, and then go to these mini camps for the invites that they've gotten.
And they were doing tryouts, and they were doing, all kinds of stuff. So it wasn't, they weren't, doing full practices and all that stuff. And some of them went to the OTAs and all that. So they had a chance. They had a good, probably, month and a half to heal without any contact and stuff, and then kind of get into some of these practices now. So,
right. And I'd like to say that you would think that the USFL would have picked something up from their first season. This is their second season, and they set it up exactly the same way as they did their first season. Same time frame and everything. Yeah. So I don't know how much, and I'm sure some thought went into it, don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure how strong that relationship is between the USFL and the NFL. If they're allowing these players to play this close to these training camps, like how serious they are about getting people into the NFL, because you would need that time, right? Most everybody here has played some kind of organized sport. You need time to heal and recover. It's not like, just a week or so and you'll be good. You need a week of doing nothing just to even be able to get yourself to a point where you can go and start doing your rehab and going back to the gym and doing things like that. And so I don't know how smart it is for these players to be playing in the USFL and then immediately try and take a chance on going and plugging into an NFL team and potentially a really serious injury, right?
Yeah.
But
we'll
see how all that plays out.
Yeah, it's all speculation on our part, but we'll see. We'll see how it works in a couple of weeks for them, or a month or two.
Yes. Now, this game was absolutely interesting, and that was the Philadelphia Stars and the Michigan Panthers, right?
Yep.
Both teams had potential playoff implications on the line here, and it looks like Michigan wanted it just a little bit more. And this was a scrappy game, right? There was a lot of
a lot of back and forth and little chippiness in there.
Mm-hmm. So Philly, struck first. They got a touchdown in the first quarter, and then in the second quarter they scored 13. Michigan only scored 6, and if I remember correctly, that was off of 2 field goals. And so Michigan, was behind the 8 ball this entire game, right? Third quarter, they make a surge back. Philly scored nothing, right? Michigan scored 9 points. So there's some hope. There's some life, right? Well, I think that third quarter is what sparked the team to, finish the fight, if you will, and wound up, shutting Philly out, no points, and they scored 8, which was just enough to get them ahead.
Yep.
So, looking at their stats, Philly's quarterback, Cookus, 24-44, 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Pretty solid day. And then on the ground, they had 83 yards. Unfortunately, Cookus carried the bulk, right? 48 yards, 7 attempts. We talked about that. Not going to keep going over it. Their running back, Williams, 6 attempts, 22 yards. So their running game wasn't getting a whole lot of help, right? And looking over at the Panthers, Perry went 12 of 23, 121 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. The ground, apparently I disappeared for a second. Don't mind me. Again, Perry led the rushing attack also, 84 yards on the ground. So relatively low offensive
Why are we
game.
seeing that so much in the USFL? That's so weird to me. We keep saying it and keep mentioning it, but this is a theme in the league. The quarterbacks have, a lot of these games are leading their teams in rushing. I don't get it. I mean,
I don't know. It could be just because the quarterback or the player quality isn't exactly as high as what it is in the NFL. It could be that it's more designed to be more quarterback option friendly. That would require a lot more analysis on our part.
Yeah,
neither one of us have time for any of that. So going into this weekend, Saturday, Michigan Panthers are playing Pittsburgh Maulers for the USFL South Championship, and on Sunday, the North. My bad. I got thrown off by the next one. So on Sunday, it's for the South Championship, and it's New Orleans Breakers versus Birmingham. Now, neither one of these teams are going to be playing in home stadiums, so nobody's going to get any kind of home field advantage or anything like that.
That's not true. Birmingham is playing. Yeah.
My bad. I read the wrong thing again. So yeah, Birmingham will have home field advantage to their 278 fans.
No, they might actually have a decent turnout, with it being the playoffs and a home team.
Yep. And then following that, July 1st will be the championship. So you're looking.
So they're just waiting 1 week. They're not taking a week off for media and all that other good stuff, or rest up. They're going right into it.
Yeah. So that's going to be fun. Uh-oh. Jackie's calling me out on something. What rumors am I spreading? I don't even know what she's talking about.
Rumor that Michigan and Pittsburgh are in the South?
Yes. Uh-oh.
Oh,
We're deciding to join us.
We've got an appearance by Coach.
How y'all doing?
Good.
What's up, man?
Well, good, guys. I appreciate you holding it down. You've been doing a hell of a job. I have been in training mode with all my boys, and we just got back. So continue on, guys.
It shows you've been in training mode.
I know you boys, but how about the Cincinnati Reds?
Oh, they're not in first place. Who's in first place?
The Reds by a game over the Brew Crew.
The Milwaukee Brewers? Yeah, thank you. Yeah. But this is not a baseball show.
This is not Texas talking baseball. Get out of here with that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Talking sweeping the Astros. Oh, my bad. Too soon.
Oh, that's going to be for the after show. Speaking of football, though, let's kick it over to the IFL. Okay. Some pretty boring games happened this weekend. But there were a couple of them that were just absolutely mind-blowing. Okay. And starting with week 14, I know, Jackie. Look, check
There
it
you
out,
go.
guys.
There you go, Jackie. Yep.
Brian, stop.
Go hate.
I'd make a jab at the Cowboys, but you guys are both Cowboys fans, and Jackie's like a huge Cowboys fan, so I got nothing right now because I don't want to fight with Jackie. The rest of you chumps, I don't care about.
You're a Packer fan. You have nothing.
Oh, but I've had 22 years of relevancy, and you've had how many years of mediocrity?
And videotapes. Yes, I get it.
Yes. Okay, Jackie, I won't. I promise. I'll behave. We're moving on to the IFL. Okay, let's talk IFL. So, Bay Area Panthers beat the Vegas Nighthawks. We talked about that one last week. I believe we both picked Bay Area in that game, and we were right. It wasn't really close. Bay Area pretty much handled that game, no problem. This next game, right? This is the shocker of the weekend.
That's right. Okay? That's right.
Brian's artificial favorite team, the Quad City Steamreelers, laid a steaming pile on the field against the Iowa Barnstormers. Tom, you probably remember the Iowa Barnstormers from the old AFL days.
Way back.
Yes. 80-41.
That's a defensive battle.
Yeah, you cut that score in half, and Iowa still set a good amount of points on the board. Like, that's ridiculous. So at no point in time did Quad City ever have any kind of control of this game in any way, shape, or form. I think Iowa's defense, I think they were probably putting fans in to cover the Quad City team, and they still couldn't keep up. So it was a slaughter. This game was
horrible. That was horrible.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Now, Sioux Falls Storm had a little bit of a slugfest. And again, this is arena ball, right? So 35-34.
Low scoring slugfest.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a defensive battle, right? You're still scoring points, but there's defense involved, right? Because we know Sioux Falls is not that bad. In fact, looking at the standings, Sioux Falls was 6-4. They were 5-5 going into that game. So not a horrible team. Okay. But yeah, there was some defense in that game. And so that was a little bit surprising the score was that close and that low. But
especially considering Tulsa was 1-10 going in.
Yeah. Yeah. So not sure what was going on with some of these IFL games.
Yeah. But this one, that's what I was telling you about, Jason, the Sioux Falls and Tulsa, that was the build your base beef battle. The winning team got 1,000 bags of build your base beef jerky to give to their fans at the next home game. So it's
that's the gift that keeps on giving all year round.
Sure.
Yep.
This is probably some of that side of the road. Don't ask where it came from. Beef jerky.
1-11. Give me some jerky. I'll come to your game.
Well, speaking of jerky, we are going to be talking about some jerks in a little bit too when we get to the NAL.
Oh, that's right.
You like that segue, huh? So our friends, and shout out to Jimmy up there in Arlington. The Frisco Fighters beat the Northern Arizona Wranglers 37-29. That's a low-scoring game. That's very surprising for Frisco, considering they were 9-2 going into this game.
Yep.
But Frisco punched their ticket to the playoffs with that win. So
yeah. Well, and Northern Arizona going into this game was 6-5. So it probably shouldn't have been as close as it was, right? Northern Arizona should have probably coughed up, much more points, but somehow they found a way to stay in that game. Now, the San Diego Strike Force, Tucson Sugar Skulls. Now we're getting back to the arena football scores, right? San Diego 59, Tucson 54, right? We're used to big numbers in these games because there usually isn't. I mean, it's hard to have any kind of defensive scheme, when you've got. And the one thing I love about the IFL, right, You can have two receivers in motion. So you've got two guys full speed going for, downfield. You've got options. How are you going to cover that? Right. But anyway, so that was a close game on Saturday. And I think, in fact, weren't we watching part of the Frisco game at the Gunslingers game? It was one of the
I
two.
I thought it was the San Diego and Tucson one that we were watching.
It might have been. But we were watching one of the games while we were watching the NAL as well. And then we round out the weekend. Tom, here's another AFL team you might remember, the Arizona Rattlers.
Mm-hmm.
They wound up beating the Duke City Gladiators.
So it's by Danny White back in the day.
Yeah.
The one.
And so Arizona Rattlers are second in the Western Division, right? So they're right in the mix there with Bay Area. In fact, they're tied both at 8 and 4. The only thing that's really kind of separating them is the conference wins. Bay Area is 7 and 3. Arizona is 6 and 3. So that's really about what's separating them right now. Okay. So you'll notice my precious Green Bay Blizzard was not mentioned because they had the week off, and probably good too, because they're sitting at 6 and 5. They're not really much of a threat.
Hey,
So,
you gotta love the logo for the Green Bay Blizzard, though.
yeah,
It looks like a fantasy football icon.
It does. Not gonna lie. So going into this next week, right? Week 15, you've got Green Bay at Sioux Falls Storm, and they're both battling for fourth place. So close, probably not going to go Green Bay's way. Honestly, I don't see them pulling it off, but we'll see what happens, right? Next game is Tulsa at the Massachusetts Pirates.
I'm calling it now, Tulsa with the upset.
At 1-11, that would be a severe upset.
Hey, you know what? You called Iowa last week. So.
Hey,
it could be. So, but Brian, redemption for your Quad City team. Okay, Iowa is playing Quad City in Quad City, wherever that.
Oh shoot!
Right. So it's a rematch. So
are you going to take Iowa again?
At 3-9, and
you took them at 2-9.
Quad City is at 7 and 5. Yeah, I'll take him again.
You can take him again? All right. Way to stick to your guns.
Yep. So then Bay Area Panthers. Bay Area Panthers are playing in Frisco. That should be a win for Frisco, no problem.
Frisco all day.
Yep. And then Vegas Nighthawks at Duke City. Vegas Nighthawks are sitting at 4 and 8. I'm not.
So Duke City's at 4 and 8 too. So, little suck fest late in the year.
Yep. So then Tucson at Northern Arizona. We've seen this matchup before, and they're basically neck and neck for third place, right? Tucson's at 6 and 5. Northern Arizona's at 6 and 6. So this could tie everything up, or it could definite gap between 3 and 4. So I'm going to say Tucson is probably going to edge that one out, but it's going to be close. And then, of course, Brian, thoughts on it?
On Tucson, Northern Arizona?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think Tucson's going to take that.
Okay. And
go
then
Sugar Shack.
Sugar Shack, huh? Okay. Our last game, San Diego at Arizona. Now, Tom, San Diego is at 5 and 7, and Arizona is at 8 and 4. They are playing at home in Arizona. Who are you picking?
Arizona all day.
So you're sticking with the AFL teams.
Yep. Anybody that hired Dan Dwight is a team that I root for.
True. Well, Kurt Warner too, right?
Ooh.
So start that with me.
I think Arizona's on a 5-game win streak, so I think they're going to make it 6.
Yeah, the Rattlers all day.
Yep. Okay. So that pretty much wraps up the IFL. Jimmy, we're rooting for your Frisco Fighters. Hopefully they come out with the win, because I want to see them. Yeah, I want to see them make that gap even bigger between first and second. Now the
league that had all the news, all the stupidity, all the entertainment, all the laughs.
Tom,
time for NAL.
Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown, what is the deal, man?
He needs money. That's what.
Apparently, because he can't pay the fines that he's getting hit with.
I mean,
he can't even pay his league fees. Come on, man.
I got nothing, guys.
That was an absolute train wreck to watch, much like the end of his career in the NFL.
But do we expect anything less from, an Antonio Brown owned team?
No, but truthfully, I have never seen anybody in the history of any organization anywhere have the anti-Midas touch like Antonio Brown. Literally everything he touches turns to rust. Okay. However, there is good news. Okay. So we don't know what's going to happen with the team that is kind of currently known as Albany Empire, right? We do know that they've been kicked out of the NAL.
They're done. They're out of the league.
But he still owns the franchise. So he could potentially join back next year. He could join another organization next year. He could sell the team. We don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
What league in their right mind would take anything that he's attached to now?
Who knows? Who knows? But what we do know is that there is interest from the original owner who owned the team 2 years ago and took them to the playoffs 2 years ago.
Well, not just playoffs. They won the championship 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they won the championship again last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sells the team to Antonio Brown.
And Antonio Brown completely crashes it into the ground.
Yeah.
Much like handing flight controls to Helen Keller. You get what you get. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's no use complaining because she can't hear you anyways.
That being the case.
Well, now that this is going to be our last show, it was fun doing it with you guys.
Yep. That being the case, though, we do know that the original owner has already said that there will be football in their arena next season. And whatever happens, whether he buys the team back from Antonio Brown or he starts his own team.
So from what I saw is he said it was going to be just a brand new Albany team.
Oh, yeah.
So it was going to, it not going to be the Empire. It'll be a separate team completely.
Mm-hmm. Right. So chances are he's probably not going to buy the team back or the team rights back, and he's just going to let it go into obscurity. Right. We also know that there was that patent that was filed by the USFL, kind of renewing the old USFL name, one of which was the San Antonio Gunslingers. And since that day, we have not heard any news about that. So that's still out there pending as well for this organization. What we do know, though, is that because of the nightmare that is Antonio Brown, we are going to be playing West Texas Warbirds again this next Saturday. Right? And so Brian and I will be there to watch that game. And
chalk up another W for the Slingers.
Well, let's just hope that this game, the game this weekend, doesn't start out as crappy as last game did.
That moment in time was a perfect analogy for how this game was going to go. Brian, why don't you tell the fans about what happened as soon as the opening entertainment took the field?
So when they brought the teams on the field for the introductions and all that stuff, they had three horse riders they came out and just kind of going around the arena, with the team and stuff, and they were firing off their cap guns, like the gunslingers do. Well, before they walked onto the field, they were on the concrete part of Freeman Coliseum. Well, one of the horses decided it was time he needed to go. And so as he's walking onto the field, he's just taking a crap all over the place. There's part of it on the concrete and then the rest of it into the end zone as they're walking on. And the people were just looking at it just in disbelief, saying, what the hell are we going to do? How are we going to clean this up? So they brought their shovel scoop, tried to get some of it, couldn't get it, brought brooms, brought out some Windex or something. They couldn't get it all. And there was a nice little brown track all for the rest of the game on that end zone.
I guarantee the Freeman staff was like, the hell is that? We told you not to bring a horse in here.
Yep. But again, that was a great analogy for how this game was going to go, right? So looking at the game, we know obviously the Gunslingers won, but
they didn't deserve to, but they did.
Yeah, there were a lot of issues. So Nelson is their current quarterback. If anybody's been paying attention to the Gunslingers, you can see how Nelson's just athleticism has kind of been falling down as of late. Now, I'm not sure if maybe he's got, a case of the yips coming on. Maybe he's playing injured or something. We simply don't know because the Gunslingers just don't reveal a whole lot of information. Real quick. Yeah, Jimmy, we're pulling for the Frisco Fighters. We hope that they do go 10-2. That way they kind of, create that extra buffer between first and second. But yeah, we're definitely pulling for the Frisco Fighters this weekend. Back to the Gunslingers. We pretty decent. They were pretty much on point, and they were decent spirals. As the game went on, the ball started floating a lot. It started, flying off axis. Yeah. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. And then I'm not trying to question the guy's talent or anything like that. His passes got to where they needed to go. Okay. They just, because of them being off axis, because of them being just kind of like wounded ducks, they were much harder to catch. And so there were a lot more drops by the receivers.
A lot more drops, a lot more contested passes, that didn't need to be. And, this was my first Gunslingers game that I've actually watched in live this year. And I tend to pay more attention to stuff like that, live than I do on TV. I mean, it seemed like almost every one of his throws was just ducks throwing them up there. And, a lot of them, the receivers made great plays to get the ball. And a lot of them, they shouldn't have had to do that.
I was trying to say, he's got there's two quarterbacks on the roster. He's got a 59% completion rate. He's thrown 31 touchdown passes, had 10 picks. It ain't horrible, but then you look at his backup, he's only thrown 2 passes, and he threw a pick. No, I'm sorry, he's thrown 5 passes, threw a pick for 17 yards, no touchdown. So,
well, he's only been on the team for a couple weeks now, and then he was a quarterback last year for us.
Right.
So
he was the one who helped us kind of turn the playoffs, well, not playoffs, but the season around to be somewhat competitive. Because remember, we just joined the NAL last year.
Yeah.
Right. Well, my point is, it looks like they're going to stick with Nelson. Mm-hmm. So hopefully it was just a bad game and he just starts to, throw those tighter spirals and get him in there. But
hopefully, and, he did have he had a Dak Prescott moment of he went back, went to throw the ball, and the ball was not there. The ball just flew out of the back of his head.
That is Dackery.
Yes. Now, Tom, let me ask you this, right? Because you're an offense guy. What could potentially be going on? What are some of the things that Nelson might be facing here when he starts out a game pretty good and fades as the game progresses?
Well, defenses adjust, and the arena ball is so quick. I mean, it's fast. You've got two guys going. You got all the defense slipping around, and you've got to make a decision like that. In regular 11-man football, you got a little bit more time unless your offense dictates. You get the ball out, right? It's balls coming out. In this one, it's easier to make an adjustment on a smaller field. It really is. And so you make an adjustment by sneaking. You got a corner, outside, and he just right before he snaps it, he times it where he's backing up. Now he's in the passing lane because you're running a drag across, right? He's right there, and that just hesitates. So you've got to get your second read. Again, I was out of town all weekend, so I didn't see it, but I can only imagine that a lot of it would have to do with the speed.
Okay.
Well, and the game started the first half. Gunslingers hung 39 on them, and it looked like they were just going to blow them out. And then, the third quarter, it was just they came out flat, and fourth quarter, West Texas they just hammered them, and it was, interception, the fumble, the open hand fumble was returned for a touchdown, and it almost like the Gunslingers just got rattled. That's what it looked like. They didn't come out in the second half with the same intensity as the first, and just we're absolutely lucky to come out of that game with a win because obviously it was 6-point victory. Warbirds had a play from 4-yard line last play of the game, and they dropped a pass in the end zone. So Absolutely, Gunslingers had no business winning that game. Got lucky that they dropped it. So
well, and to our kicker's credit, right? He did score 4 on his own.
He did.
Right. So that's additional 4 points that the team could kind of rest on. So this goes back to what Brian just said. That first half, they look pretty sharp. That second half, completely different team came out, right? They scored 16 points total in the second half. And, West Texas scored what, 25? 32.
They scored 32 that second half.
32.
Yeah.
Okay. That's double, right? So you're not going to win games like that. But they are playing West Texas again this weekend in lieu of that Albany game. So could this be a chance for the Gunslingers to redeem themselves? Or is this going to be West Texas exacting their revenge? Because they've already lost to San Antonio Gunslingers twice. And as we've seen with the XFL.
And both of them have been close games. The first one, I can't find it. I got to look back at the scores, but it was only, a touchdown, or maybe 10 points, if I remember correctly. So it was a lot closer than it should have been, both of these games, considering what their records are.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find it myself right now.
It was 38-36, the first game.
Yep.
So 2 points. 2 points.
So what are your guys' thoughts on it? Do you think this is going to be a chance for San Antonio to make the necessary adjustments that they need and get a dominant win this week at home? Or is it going to be, West Texas show?
No, I like the Gunslingers by more than 2 touchdowns.
That's bold. That is bold. Okay. I'm going to go the opposite route on the score. And I'm going to say it's going to be a close one again because the other 2 games have been close.
Yeah.
But I think it's too close to call, right? Because I think, again, San Antonio has more to prove in this game. So they're going to be more prone to push themselves too hard and make a mistake. So I think all the pressure really is going to lie on San Antonio. You know, especially like if you look at let's look at the standings here real quick. Okay.
I mean, San Antonio is first in the league, and
West Texas is basically last.
Yeah, they're last or second to last. So
yeah.
Well, Albany is now last. Warbirds are second to last.
Albany was last before the season even started, man.
Yeah.
Last to make their payment too.
Yes. kind of like the 83 Gunslingers.
Hey, everybody's heard the story. They brought them all in and said, boys, you better get to that bank on 87 in Lavernia. It's exactly, it looked like
Cannonball Run, baby.
Cannonball Run, baby. Everybody flying down 87.
Yep.
And for those of you that don't know, that area is also China Grove. So the song China Grove, that's that same area. There is the bank right there that they all ran to. So
thanks, Professor History.
True story.
Okay. So we'll see what happens this weekend, right? It's going to be a good game either way. But our second game of the week was Carolina Cobras, Jacksonville Sharks, right? Some more AFL teams, Tom. And this one wound up being I'm sorry, Carolina Cobras and the Predators. But again, two AFL teams. This wound up being Predators game, 59-54. Carolina is ahead of the Predators in the standings. They probably shouldn't have dropped that game. However, they were playing in Orlando. So that home field crowd probably made a little bit of a difference.
Yeah.
You know? And they were playing the same time we were. So we obviously did not watch that game ourselves. Now, going into week 12, you've got Cobras at Jacksonville. So I guess they're doing the whole, Florida tour over there. And then you've got the Warbirds at San Antonio. Again, that's going to be a close game to call. Carolina, Jacksonville. I'm picking Jacksonville in that one.
Yeah. Any given Sunday, I'll take the Sharks.
Okay.
I'm taking San Antonio and I'm taking Jacksonville this week.
Okay. We'll see how that goes. Now, let's kick over to the gift that keeps on giving. I love the XFL. Okay. For most teams around the league, you've got season ticket renewal. Guys, we've talked about it before. This is the part where if you didn't reserve your seats, they're pretty much up for grabs. So folks that don't have seats, get in now. Get those seats. Get some of those prime seats, right? We made sure to lock ours in. A bunch of our friends with the Brahmas use this opportunity to move up closer, to get better seats, to be on that ring of terror that we're trying to start at the Alamo Dome. Again, get out there, get your season tickets, right? This is how we support the league. This is how we make sure that we have football for cities like San Antonio and St. Louis that aren't going to get professional teams, right?
Yeah.
We keep a league like this supported, and we enjoy everything. So
I'll tell you, Jason and I have talked about this quite a few times. As much as you think name recognition and stuff like that, I think the XFL is a better product than the USFL right now. I do. I really do. I think the USFL has a lot that they can learn from the XFL.
Well, they're probably not going to have to worry about it when they get absorbed by the XFL and become, another league, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about that. And that from a business standpoint, if they could secure home fields for all the teams, that would be the way to go.
They're going to have to do that. They can't do this. You don't build a fan base like that.
Right.
If I'm in Timbuktu and I want to be a fan of the Timbuktu Timbers, then I need the Timbers to play at where I could go see them and not go to Memphis or Birmingham or somewhere like that and worry about it being on NBC. And They're rushing the game because that's what NBC does. And I know that for a fact because I help host the Army All-American Bowl. And when I tell you they rush it, they rush it.
Yeah.
They are not about overtime.
No. But that's also supposed to be part of the draw of both leagues, right? Is that it's supposed to be a faster paced product that, you have less time standing around, less media timeouts, all that other stuff. I do like, and I didn't see this with the XFL, but I do like how they do the TV timeouts where you still get the live feed, right? The NFL has done that. But you get the live feed and you see the commercial on the side, right? You can still see action going on the field. You can still see people setting up for stuff and whatever. Like that's what I want to see. What I do want to talk about though is, did you see the latest headline from the XFL? You should have. I shared it with both of you. The 44 players.
Oh, that one.
Yes. There are 44 players that were undrafted in the NFL that got claimed by the XFL today.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
The XFL rosters were expanded from 53 to 90, right? So it could be a lot more like the NFL. You've got a lot more people in training camp. You have a lot more opportunities for some of those severe diamonds in the rough, like we've talked about, to actually have a chance to shine, right? So we could potentially be looking at, one of the next superstars that's going to be in the NFL in a couple of years. But this is really important, right? Because this goes to show the need for spring football. Now we're looking at some of the players, and there's some pretty decent, talent here. The one thing that San Antonio fans are super excited about is that we actually have a local kid playing on the team. Micah Smith from Incarnate Word is going to be one of our defensive backs going into the training camps. Now, we know that there's no guarantee that he's going to make a roster, okay? But it'd be really nice to see a local kid actually make a roster for his hometown team, okay? Just like we also talked about UTSA's quarterback. Once he's done with the with college football, Frank Harris.
Frank.
Well, let me ask you this, Tom. What do you think his chances are?
Because I coach Frankie.
Yeah.
So coach me youth football. Yep.
There's a personal connection there. What do you think his chances are of making it to the NFL?
I think if you'd have asked me that 3 years ago with his knee issues, I'd have told you it was going to be, pretty challenging. But right now, I think he has a shot to at least get drafted, maybe a late round draft, and go and see what he can do. I do. I think he's got a shot. I think there's another one that I coach, Rashad Wisdom. I think he's got a shot too. Both of them will be in the NFL draft. We'll see where it goes from there. But Frank, I know Frank has the mental part of the game, and he's gotten bigger over the years. And I think Frank actually has a chance to make a roster.
Okay. Well, the nice thing about it is if he doesn't, he still has options, right?
He does. He does.
I would absolutely love for Coach Ward to grab him and get him on the roster. If he does not make an NFL roster, grab him and get him on an XFL roster, on our roster, right? Think about what that would do for, obviously, the fans. The UTSA fans would flood the dome. It would bring, some more of that hometown feel to the team. Like they wouldn't even have to do anything else. Any of the community involvement stuff, nothing, right? But they definitely would have a much deeper connection with the team if they had more hometown people, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think as much as I like the XFL, I think, I don't know what his plans. I know he's going to go off the NFL, and if he wants to continue playing, why not? I mean, hell, we talked about my son. I told him, hey, why not? He's got a year left, and if he or two, he's got the super season left, and go out there and give it a shot. He kind of giggled and laughed, but then he kind of said, well, I'll think about it. So you never know. You never know how this stuff goes on.
Well, I will tell you the Brahmas struggled with their offensive line.
Of course, they drafted 2 offensive linemen and tight end. They were draft heavy on offense, 7-4.
Yeah.
You know, and mostly, I mean, you got 3 D-backs, so you can see, you know, trying to defend the pass a little bit, but hey.
Yeah, they definitely attempted to shore up that offensive line.
Yeah.
So, which, I mean, that was their biggest weakness all season. So.
Yep. Well, and you knew that they were going to go after defensive players in all of these drafts because our defense was completely picked clean.
Yep.
Pretty much everybody on our, at least all the starters for sure, every one of them got invited to some kind of mini camp somewhere. Now, do they get an NFL contract out of that? Who knows, right? The only one we really know so far is Barku and Romo.
And then the long snapper he signed with Pittsburgh a day or 2 ago.
Okay.
So
and there may be a few more. We'd probably have to go back and check a whole bunch of headlines. But the point is that a lot of our defense got picked clean when it came time to get invites to NFL camps because our defense arguably, and Jimmy, I'm sorry, you know, hats off to Arlington for winning the championship. I know you're not going to let that go until we take the trophy back this next year, but Arlington's defense was not as good as San Antonio's. And that's the reason why our defense got picked clean. So that being the case, obviously they were going to go after, you know, all of our defensive players, and rightfully so. They're great talent. So I hope the best for every one of them. I hope they all succeed. I'm interested to see what we're going to do on defense this next year because of it. Now, the only thing we really have left to talk about is the NFL. And really the only thing we can talk about at that point is Dalvin Cook. Where's Cook going, guys?
He ain't going to Dallas. Nope. No way. No way he comes to Dallas. Pollard, look. Pollard is working out in Frisco right now. Says he's strong, but you know, Michael Gallup will be better. So you kind of thinking there's going to be a lag. But the steal of the draft is Von Dunbar, and that little guy is going to take us somewhere. Now, does that mean we're going to stick with the guy that we picked up from Tampa Bay? Probably not. And does that mean that there could be another side of he won't be wearing 21, but the Zeke show might be in Dallas because he's finding out there's not a market right now, and we're going to need a pounder. We're going to need somebody, and for everything Zeke was a team leader on that team. So if you bring him back to the locker room,
I've said that I could totally still see Zeke coming back. You know, obviously a whole lot cheaper than what he was going. But
yeah, it'll be a fraction of.
Yeah,
Jerry will smile big when he hands in that check.
Speaking of Dalvin Cook, I mean, did you see that maybe him and Andre Hopkins are kind of interested in teaming up together to go somewhere?
Yeah.
So, I mean, they go to the right team. That's a pretty powerful combination right there.
Yeah, I could see Cook in a place like Chicago, New Orleans, but he's not going to Dallas. All that needs to get squashed. Right now, Dallas roster-wise, well, of course, we don't have a kicker. Can we sign Robbie Gould? Can we sign somebody that's not a shanker? But
Parker Romo.
Stop it. Well, whatever. If he does it right, yeah, come on, bring it on. I don't care. Just make it.
Parker Romo is killing it in Detroit. He's just going to be on the roster. So, the thing is, there's too many speculations, especially if we're talking about DeAndre Hopkins and Dalvin Cook together on a roster. Where are you going to fit them? You know, and I just don't think that. Obviously, we know it's not going to be Dallas. It won't be Green Bay. I doubt it's going to be Chicago because of the quarterback issues over there.
No, Chicago's going to be salty. Look out for Chicago. You heard it here first. The Bears are going to be pretty good in the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree. I'm just saying they don't have the solidity of a competitive team just yet because they're still trying to figure out where their key pieces are.
The best thing that happened in Chicago Bears is that Aaron Rodgers took a jet plane to the Jets. That's exactly. Yep. Now the mental block is done. So the Bears, it may be a rough year for Green Bay. You never know.
Oh no, it's going to be a horrible year for Green Bay. I'll be the first to say it.
Well, I'm trying to be nice.
No.
The other one, guys, the other running back we haven't talked about yet. Somebody in New York needs to figure this Barkley stuff out. because the guy's just saying, look, I don't want to set the market. I'm not trying to break the bank, but I do want to be respected. Now, everybody's idea of being respected is different. But he can do the Bell thing, right? Sit out a year, which I don't think he's going to do that because he give up a whole bunch of money doing it. He could demand a trade, or he could just say, well, fine, I'll play for that franchise tag. I can tell you right now, he doesn't look like a guy that wants to play for the franchise tag. So the Giants had a damn good draft. I'll give it to them. To the point where I'm going to make a prediction right now. Y'all ready for this? Y'all ready? The NFC East. Dallas, New York, Philly in third. This is the playoffs this year. Heard it here. Heard it here first.
Isn't this what
remember the date? June 20th, 2023.
You guys have said for the past 32 years.
The Eagles are in third place at the end of the year.
And so I'm assuming then the Commanders are going to be in fourth.
Oh yeah, Commanders suck
with Robinson and McLaurin.
Sorry, I had a flashback to San Antonio Commanders. I'm still not there with the Washington
dude.
Dude, just call them Washington. It's so. I mean. Uh-oh. No, bring them back.
Well, don't get me started on the Commanders, okay?
Don't even get me started.
So,
my wife took away my favorite cup. But anyways, hey, but yeah, Washington done. Let's just say that Washington is
no salt,
done.
no salt.
No salt. Yeah,
no
salt. So you heard it here first. Cowboys win the division. Giants in second. Eagles in third. Nobody cares about Washington or the Commanders or the Cobra Cons or whatever they call themselves now. San Francisco, Dallas, that's the cream of the crop next year. So we'll see. In the NFC.
We'll see. Because again, right, you've got Chicago knocking on the door.
You do.
You also have the Saints with Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Right? And especially if the Saints pick up Dalvin Cook, forget about it. So it's going to be interesting to see how everything kind of plays out. And Cook himself has pretty much alluded to the fact that, you know, he wants to play with Hopkins, but he's not going to make a decision anytime soon, right? He's going to gauge the interest of the marketplace, see what's going on. He's definitely going to want to try and find some team that is going to play Minnesota and make them pay for making that mistake by cutting him. You know, there's going to be some personal vengeance out there. So we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Which is always great for storylines.
I thought for sure that there was going to be a whole flurry of activity when Rodgers finally did sign his contract because teams are going to be making moves to try and shore up against him, and that simply didn't happen. You know, so Cook making a move to another team, it may just be a drop in a bucket. It may not make a difference, or it may make a huge difference. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
So that being the case, that's pretty much covers everything that we wanted to talk about tonight. We covered obviously IFL, right? Pulling for Frisco this weekend. The NAL, obviously, we're vested in the Gunslingers, and it's going to be a dicey game against West Texas. I'm sure that it'll game. So make sure you're watching that one. For the IFL games and the NAL games, you can always tune in to the IFL YouTube channel or the NAL YouTube channel. Catch those games there, and be surprised, be expecting some audio issues and things like that. I've noticed that both leagues kind of struggle a little bit with the audio and whatever.
Somebody walking by with popcorn. Down your front.
Yeah. Make sure you also keep your eyes tuned to the USFL. We've got playoff weekend this weekend, and the weekend after we're going into the championship game, which kind of like the XFL. We don't really have a name for it. Like, it's not the Super Bowl. It's just the USFL championship game, right? So they got to come up with something there.
I mean, it took the NFL how many years to come up with the Super Bowl? So we'll give them a few.
67 when they merged both leagues together. I'm just saying. So, but that being the case, folks, SAJ coming to you live from the Jungle Jim's Playland studio.
So I'm BD coming at you from the Discovery Zone studio.
And I'm Coach coming out of hiding because I hadn't been here. So sorry.
It's Tuesday night.
Well,
thanks for tuning in, folks.
Yep.
Catch you later.
Later, everyone.
All right.
Let me do this. Don't go anywhere, Coach.
What was that?